Hey everybody, what's up? It's your friend James Shaw. Thanks so much for choosing to be here this morning. We're back and better than ever on this Tuesday morning. It's 7:57, and just honor and celebrate you for choosing to get up. First, thank you, Jenny Wallach, for filling in. How great was she yesterday? Jenny, I got text messages about how great that call was, so thank you for filling in. I appreciate it so much. I know it's early for you. You're normally at yoga or something, right? Aren't you doing? You got hot yoga in the morning, and
Yeah.
so thank you for getting up and filling in for me. I appreciate it. Oh, I thought she was going to say something. So I
I
appreciate
will
you.
I will totally say something. What a great way to start my day. And I'm not used to full going high energy at 6:15 a.m., but I loved every minute of it. So thanks
Well,
guys for participating and hanging out with me.
thank you for doing it. Appreciate you so much. So I am out and about these couple of days, and it was just nice to have Jenny fill in. We are in listing month. All month, we are focused on listings. Last month was about, or last week rather, was about filling the pipeline. If you need some listing leads, go back and watch the calls that we did last week. They're all on my YouTube channel. We almost, Inspire members, I promise that we're going to do a little one pager of the top strategies from each call for you. Those are almost done. I hope to have those out to you here midweek from last week's calls. This week is about getting the appointment. So you get the lead in the pipeline, but then how do you move them from pipeline to get to the table? And so this week is all about getting the appointment. And today specifically about how helping sellers understand the market and the data that the market is telling you, but help them truly get the market. Because do you have confused seller leads right now? People who maybe they want to sell but think they should wait, or people who want to sell but think that it is 2022, that they're confused. Maybe you're in a market that's actually pretty hot and multiple offers are coming in, but because of what they're hearing nationally, they think it's horrible. Or because of what they're hearing nationally, they think that it's a buyer. I don't know. You just got to help utilize the data to help move them forward. So we'll talk about that today. But before we do that, we'll do a couple of tell me something good. So let's get a handful of those. And Nikki, you're up next. Good morning.
James, you took me off guard there. So
Well, your
I just
hand
want
was
to,
up. So did you have
it
something good to
was,
share this morning?
I did, but I just was not ready. Yes, I do. I want to thank everybody for the great birthday wishes but yesterday and this weekend. And we are talking about seller leads and getting them to convert. I have 4 new listings that'll be coming up, all in different price points. And in our market here in Upper Michigan, yes, as you were talking about, we still are getting multiple offers. We are getting a lot of people moving up to the Northwoods to get away from perhaps the city. So I feel very blessed that we have these coming up. And I've opened a second office in the Eagle River, Wisconsin area. So I do cover that area as well. So I have been quite busy and I'm loving it.
Nikki's getting it done. Nikki, thanks for being on. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Vinny, good morning. Vinny. Tisha, good morning. Hello, is this working?
Good
Cindy,
morning.
there we
I'm
go.
here.
Good morning.
I'm here. That mute button is hard.
It is
Um,
sometimes, especially on the phone. Listen, on the phone, that mute button will mess with you. Good morning.
yes. So I my good thing today is I'm actually switching offices to be closer to home. And today I came to get the last things out of my office to move over. And I came into a money tree plant from one of my vendor partners. And I don't know, it moved me in such a way because it just reminds me of just the whole culture of KW and just the lengths that both offices went to make sure that I had a smooth transition, to make sure that I was well taken care of, just really creating a win-win. And I mean, it means more to me than anybody could ever really know because of not having that in previous places.
Mhm.
So it just brightened my day. It
It's,
made everything wonderful today.
it is nice to feel valued and appreciated and cared about. And I'm love that that's the experience you're having in this transition. So, and I'm thankful that you're part of this community too. Cindy, you get the last one this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much. Coming at you from my sauna. So a couple things. Had an open house this weekend in a neighborhood I used to live in. I had 14 individuals come through. one person came through and said, I just wanted to meet you so that you can list my house next month. So just kind of putting things into practice that we've been talking about, and it's paying off. And it was good to see some familiar faces for sure. Um, I've kind of had a tough go. My mom was diagnosed with cancer on April 10th, and so thank you to whoever ended up purchasing the ticket. I couldn't get to Disney, but since April 1st, I've had 15 signed agreements, 21 under contract, 12 closings. I have seven currently pending. So it's been extremely busy, and I'm super grateful for it.
Well, all the best to your mom. We missed you at Elevate. I'm glad we were able to get it sold last minute. It was a frantic moment. You were leaving right away,
Yes.
get up to be with your mom, and so I was glad we were able to support you. And all best wishes to her. Congratulations on the growth of your business and people coming to say, "Hey, I want to meet you so you can sell my house." How cool is that?
That was awesome.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Thanks, Cindy. I appreciate it. And isn't that what we're looking for? We're looking to build relationships and connect with people so that when they're ready to list, you're the one they use, that they come seek you out. And sometimes you get people added to the pipeline. One I remember this very, very well, is when my grandmother told me, my grandma said, James, I want to sell and I want to move into my independent living. And I said, great, when do you want to do that? And she said, last week. And then 2 years later, we got her home on the market, right? And got it sold and got her moved. And I think that we get people that get into the pipeline. And because someone's raised their hand, does this ever happen? You think that means right now? And what it really means is later. Or they need to sell right now, but they think they need to sell later. Like put in the chat, what are some of the things that a listing lead has told you about why they should wait? Put some of those in the chat right now, because I think sometimes people say they want to sell, but they think they should wait. Well, if this is all about getting the appointment, if that's what we're talking about this week, is getting the appointment and being able to get to the table, we have to make sure that we have conversations that are converting our leads into appointments. And I think that when you have a hesitant seller, it's not because they don't want to move. It's because they're confused or they're overwhelmed. Would you agree with that? They're just confused or overwhelmed about the process. So we have to be able to support them through that confusion or overwhelm. We have to interpret the market for them or lay out the process for them. And once we can interpret the market or lay out the process, then our opportunity shows up. So let me walk through these things. I'm going to put the hands down just for a second because I've got something I want to walk through, and then you'll kind of understand better what I'm looking for you to share. So first is interpreting the market. I think this is really important right now. Would you agree with this? We have to interpret the market because it can be confusing. And I wrote down what I think are five key stats that we should interpret for them. Remember that most of the time, if a potential seller is paying attention to what's going on in the market, they're getting a national perspective. And that isn't necessarily helpful. It's like saying that the high today in the United States is 75 degrees. So it doesn't mean anything. So we need to interpret for them. Here's the five data points I think we've got to interpret. First, month supply. That's the key indicator of what's happening. Is it a seller's market, a balanced market, which I would call a shift, or a buyer's market? Months of inventory. Less than 5 months, seller's market. 5 to 7 months is balanced, which is the shift, and more than 7 months is a buyer's market. That is what it is. So we need to understand months supply. Number two, price reductions. How many price reductions are you getting a week or a month? A friend of mine who's an agent in Jacksonville said they had a third of their listings in Jacksonville had a price reduction last week. That would be a good data point for you to know and be able to interpret for a potential seller. Days on market. Days on market's the enemy right now. We want to pay attention to days on market. How long is it taking for a home to go under contract? What's that look like? So that you can again share that perspective with your seller. List to sell price ratio, we'll talk about. That's an important number. Tell us about pricing. And then pendings versus actives. Let me give you an example real quick. So let me pop into Facebook really quick and share an example with you. That's a fun screen. Isn't that cute right there? Over here. Ronnie posted this one. Ronnie posted this one. Please, please, please stop sabotaging your own deals. All buyers believe Florida is a buyer's market as per realtors. Not true. Here's the evidence. And he pulled this stuff from his MLS, and he pulled different price points of month supply of inventory. And if you look here, all of them are sellers markets leaning toward balance. Sellers market leaning toward balance. But the thing I really found interesting is down here. This original list to sale price ratio and the final list to sale price ratio. Days on market is all here. That's really good data to share with someone. Now, here's another set of data stats that I think is important for us to look at. This is the one about you're turning on the news and they're talking about how listings are at a 5-year high or whatever. But what's the perspective? This is active listing inventory in the US by month, and we're at just over 1 million active listings in the US. And is it higher than it's been since the pandemic? Yes, but look at listing inventory going into the pandemic. We've got to be able to provide that perspective. Here's another one right here, an article that I shared. This one, have you all seen this article? A record $7 billion of homes for sale in the US. Here's why the market is frozen. It is not frozen. People are buying and selling houses. This is an opportunity for you to interpret the data, right? There's 1 million active listings in the US, which I just showed you is lower than any point before the pandemic, right? And compare this data to your local market. I'm sure it would give you a similar trend. I think interpreting some of this data is really important. All right, here's the next thing I want to bring up. We need to simplify and visualize. Like sometimes we want to pull out the spreadsheet, but maybe we need to find another way to share that data. They see headlines, but are we interpreting those headlines? But what graphs or charts can you use versus an Excel spreadsheet to help share the data? Number 3, use the data as a way to get in. Here's a good one. Do you have any seller listings that are just kind of seller leads that are sitting in the pipeline that they're nervous either about the market, they don't know where they're going to go next, or something like that? Put a yes or no in the chat. Do you have any leads that are just kind of waiting? What if you reached out to them, sent them a simple text? Hey, I've been running the numbers. There's some trends that I think you want to see that'll help you decide whether or not right now is the right time to sell. When do you have 15 minutes? And you pull out some data that helps them better understand what's going on in the market. You'll know what that data is based on what's happening in your market. But I think there's some numbers you might like to look at or some trends that may help you make a decision about what to do. You create urgency by giving local insight. Again, the numbers, when we share numbers, you're getting a national perspective. But how do you put a local spin on it? And then finally, take it back to their goal. Your plan was to move this summer. Is that still your plan? But staying in a flow with them. So that's what I want to talk about this morning. I gave you some tips, and we'll put these on the one pager for our Inspire members. But what are the ways that you are taking that pipeline to appointment? And how are you helping move that seller along in the process? Jenny, good morning.
Good morning. I think we forget that our job is to help them. It's not to take a listing because that was our goal this week. It's that we need to first help them and help ourselves understand their pain. Why did they reach out to us in the first place? What was the reason that they thought now is the time for me to move, whether it's really in 6 months or it was last week? And so when we understand their pain, then we can turn that into pleasure. So that's, our own value propositions of how we help solve their problems. Aaron and Emily talked about the seniors and boomers and downsizers. Well, a lot of that pain and that situation is around just the hassle of it all. How can we solve their problem of providing this value of a clean out to close program or a certified pre-owned home program where we will share with them how we're going to take the burden off of this process? A lot of times people just freeze in being and are immobilized because they just don't know the next step. So with that, I think it's telling stories. Yesterday, our topic was about those D's that we noticed on our team was why people were moving right now. Divorce or death or downsizing all have pretty good motivating reasons. And so it's helping them know that we got them. And I always start macro, James. So like I'm going to share the overview of the whole market. Now let's narrow it down to your school district. Now let's narrow it down to your neighborhood, the square mile, and let's look at the competition that has actually sold. Those actives right now, they may be way off, and most likely those agents are not educated like this group of agents in pricing. So do not trust the active competition right now.
All of that is great. I think we have to help with overwhelm. We have to help with confusion. and then understand truly what's important to them. I bring it up a lot. I remember talking to someone one time who told me that they just couldn't get this seller to price it right. I think was the issue, that the price was just a challenge. And I said, well, tell me why they're selling. And Jenny, the answer was because they're moving. I go, that
You couldn't hear me laugh through my mute.
that is not that is not helpful. I know they're moving. What is the purpose? Well, I'm not really sure. Well, then you can't help them. So without truly understanding motivation, you can't help them. Jenny, thank you so much. We're going to bounce around a little bit, get some voices we don't hear very often. Matt Cannon, good morning.
Good morning, James from El Paso. Yeah, so I think, first of all, the most important thing is to get to the table, but you don't need to have an agenda. There's a script I like to use. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And I think this is how you need to think about, anyone really. You say, hey, James, look, maybe it is better for you to stay in your home, and maybe it isn't. Maybe it's better for you to sell your home and move over there. But what we will do when we're together is we're going to walk through all of the data together so that you'll understand what the right move for you is. And whichever way that is, that's perfectly fine. What's a good time for us to meet and go through the data? And that's kind of how you need to be thinking about these appointments. And when you get there, you need to teach your sellers how to think. You need to teach your sellers what the market's telling them. And you need to let them know it's okay, whichever they decide. It doesn't matter if they sell now, if they wait, they can feel that you're on their side. And whichever data is appropriate to help them figure out whether they need to move or stay put, that's what you need to show them. Thank you.
That's a great line. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And then they can decide. By the way, we're not here to try to convince someone to sell who shouldn't. We're here to be ready when they do need to sell, they choose us. That's the point. And so you're going to have listing leads that it doesn't make sense for them to sell right now. You want to keep them in the pipeline, obviously. But I love that line. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Great job, Matt Cannon. Diane, good morning.
Good morning. And I agree, great script. In reference to what Jenny was saying, I had found that I just sold, like yesterday, put under agreement 12 offers on this property that obviously went well over. The sellers told me that some of their neighbors were saying, yeah, we're thinking about, selling too, but it's just a soft market. Now, obviously, yeah, they were chuckling over that. I said, great, tell them. And they said they would. When I door knocked the neighborhood, this was 82 homes. I was elated to find that 70% of them were older and had been there 30 plus years. So there's plenty of folks who are certainly thinking about dumping the very large home and moving on. You're dead on with the overwhelming confusion.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
they're
we got to
confused
tell a
about the
story.
market because it's not soft. You just got how many
Nope,
offers, Diane, on that house?
12.
12. So it's not soft. Number two, that's your ideal seller right now. They either own that home free and clear or have a very small line of credit or mortgage on it or something, right, Diane?
Yes,
They're going to go probably either pay cash or transition into something else. So they don't care about
yes,
interest rate.
nope.
I mean, that group is ideal. I'm so glad you door knocked in there. And there's probably someone that you could literally take one of those 11 buyers who didn't get it and get them under contract on something this week. There's someone in that neighborhood that would sell right now.
Can't wait to go
And
back and door knock.
100% right. By the way, the last week of this challenge will be kind of about that, about how you leverage a listing into more listings. But to be in a flow with the right people is so important. Diane, thank you. Great share. Jess Starr, good morning. Great to see you this weekend.
Great to see you too, friend. So it's now rainy in Connecticut. I miss that Florida sunshine. Anyways, I love Diane's share. Actually, I would add on to that with those 12 offers that you had, I would take a multi-offer spreadsheet or multiple offers as you door knock and say, look, I've got 11 other offers here and 11 people that want to be in your neighborhood. Who do you know that needs to buy or sell right now? Because we've got these offers and these buyers are ready to go. I could have a make me move offer on your table today. So when they see that in your hand as you door knock, it is really, really powerful. And they might say, look, I don't have anything to do and I could just move today. The next question for them is price or convenience your number one priority? Because I could have both right here for you right now. So that's really crucial. And one other thing, like Jenny had mentioned, having those programs that you create and curate to make things easier, even if they might not be selling for a little while, is awesome. We had a Twilight Seniors program we created so that we could help them start to stage, start to declutter, start to sell their things and connect them with all the right people, or handle a majority of the process for them with different payment structures to do it, just to take off the pressure and the overthinking and the overwhelm that most people are in. So, whatever you can do to alleviate some of their stress and pressure, and they know that you're going to be the captain of their ship, they will move a lot faster when they know they can trust and they know that you care about them.
That's great. Rodney Mason, good morning. Rodney?
A couple weeks ago where literally I had to use every single script that we probably ever learned about objections, and I literally had to use it at the table. I mean, we talked about the price for, I want to say, an hour at least of why it should be this. And the owner, I mean, he had everything to say. And luckily, because of calls like this, I was able to maneuver those, but just off of memory of what to say in the situation. But what I had to do was explain to him the data and how we get the data. And luckily, I knew, because he thought, like you said, watching the news, that it was this way. And he's telling me about this address and this house. And I don't normally bring my laptop to a listing appointment, but right then I had to pull up the house and said, well, let's look at that house. Let's dive through that house. And, when I brought my data sheets to explain why I came up with that price and why we use that data because of it, he couldn't deny.
Oh, we lose Rodney.
Yes.
When I priced it right here, this is what we got. And then I always ask that question when we're looking at different houses, which one do you want to be? And when I'm asking that question, I'm usually showing a house that listed at a certain price and sold at a higher price and sold for less, and a house that listed at a lower price and sold higher. And I always
Rodney, you went on mute. I don't know what's going on with your phone. There you go. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
and so I always ask, which one.
Rodney, I don't know what's going on, but we can't hear you, friend. But I appreciate your sharing. And what he's talking about is just using the right data. And that's the point today, is think about what data points might help you. Is it this list to sale price number and showing exactly that journey Rodney shared? Is it helping them get perspective around days on market? Is it actives versus pendings, like Jenny mentioned? But figure out the right data to be able to share and help. Tomorrow, because again, this week is all about getting the appointment. It is how to follow up without making it feel weird or feeling like you're annoying them. I think sometimes you have listing leads in the pipeline, but you're uncertain as to how to stay in a flow with them to be able to earn the appointment, and then you end up losing out on the appointment. Has that happened to anyone, that you thought you had this great lead, but you weren't quite sure how to follow up, and then by the time you got back, they had listed with somebody else? I want you to set up a systematized follow-up plan so that that listing lead, who isn't ready right this second like you want them to be, will be there for you or you'll be there for them when they're ready. That's what we'll talk about tomorrow. Great call today. Thanks for being here. Let's go get after it. You got your inspiration. Go put in the perspiration. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, James.